Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Awaken the World. My name is Garhen, and this morning we're having a surprise Awaken Live video on how to be happy. And this came up, my wife was listening to an Abraham Hicks discussion earlier, and there were a few of the things that had twigged me as well as bad grammar. And I am terrible for that, so I'm not one to talk. I'm really not. But I sure like to catch it in everyone else. So today we're going to talk about how to be happy. And, you know, in reality, we've discussed this subject before, but we're going to readdress it, and subjects are worth readdressing. And the reason I do readdress it is because I find it valuable to keep reminding people, literally reminding you, bringing the mind back to that point. Hello, Sandra. Oh, she was just watching us on YouTube. Well, it's certainly nice to see you here. Yeah, we were just listening to a little bit of a Hicks episode, or my wife was actually, and I was sort of half hearing as I was doing my thing. And I decided I wanted to talk with everyone about being happy. And again, like I said, I literally want to remind people to take your mind and put it back into that same place it needs to be. And this is what we have to do day to day to day. You know, engaging in a spiritual practice, we're really talking about raising consciousness. Now, that does not mean that you do not incorporate ritual. And ritual, of course, is conscious actions that have symbolic meaning in all the realms for you. So, for example, one of my rituals is that I have a very beautiful mala made from the little bowls from the Bodhi tree. And it is just beautiful. And I have a ritual with that I will go and slowly wrap it around my hand, and then I will count through the 108 beads as I meditate. And this incorporates and helps grow that reminding, that bringing your vibration and your energy and your presence back into the truth of your existence again. And we're going to talk about what it means to be happy today and how to be happy. And, you know, as usual, I try to have these colorful little storyboards that we can take a look at. So number one, and this, I got to tell you, you know, I have an extremely powerful mind, you know, and I am not waving my own flag here at all. It's just a fact. I have a very high IQ. I have an eidetic memory. I'm extremely fast. What a disaster that has been when it comes to spiritual awakening. I tell you, the hardest people to wake up are the ones who think they're really smart. And I got to admit, I was one of those people. I really was. And choosing to stop having an opinion had to be about the hardest thing that I could ever do. Because, of course, I'm really smart, so I have an opinion about, well, pretty much everything. And I'm always willing to share it. From an ego point of view, a lot of trouble develops over having an opinion of about pretty much everything. Let's just take a quick look at this and see what that means, okay? So when you wake up in the morning and you see that it's pouring rain outside and you were hoping to go kayaking, you have an opinion about what the day is already like. And we will say that perhaps on this day that opinion is yuck. Darn it, I wanted to go kayaking. It's miserable outside. Now in reality, if I really wanted to go, that wouldn't stop me anyways. But you get the point. And opinion, and I talked about this just a few days ago about how dangerous opinion is. Your opinion, without even thinking about it, your ego is taking it for reality. It believes it 100%. It buys into its own opinion. You buy into your own opinion. And, you know, we have to be clear about something, and I cautioned my wife on this just the other night as well. When she says my ego, the my ego and that which she's referring to, the ego, are one and the same. You have this relative ego in the same way you have a relative body in the relative universe. Everything is a dichotomy of balance, of multiple forces, but we can fairly easily boil them down to two forces. Okay, so there's the force in you which we would call the light, which tends to be more aligned with your higher self and with cosmic truth and universal reality. And then you have what we would term the dark. And again, as I've talked about many times, it is not the dark. It's simply a different form of the energy that you are. And it is more actionable, and it is more identified with, the things it wants right now. And it has no care outside of itself. It's like the undeveloped part of ourself. And that is a manifestation of the relativity of our universe, and it is something that we have to deal with. It is part of that reunion that takes place within us. First we remind ourselves, and then we reunite ourselves so that we stop being a segmented being within ourselves. Hello, Janet. Nice to see you this morning as well. So choosing to stop having an opinion is one of the first things that we must do on the path towards being happy, because our opinions are just that. They're just opinions, and I will guarantee you that a whole lot of your opinions are tied up in the things that don't make you happy, that you perceive as causing you unhappiness. And we're going to talk a little more about that too. And actually, we should probably just talk about that right now. We always have to honor where we're at. And I tell Kelly this all the time because she is not sitting at the same vibrational plane as I am quite yet. And again, that is not a judgment, it's simply an observation of fact. And what happens is your interpretation of your reality becomes more and more refined as you become more and more relaxed and more open as your awareness goes up. And when you're in a state where you may intellectually understand what I'm talking about, or intellectually understand it through your own experiences, but you still haven't had the deep knowing experience of it where you have actually transcended that state yet. So giving honor and paying attention to where you are at and accepting where you are at can determine the tools you use on your path. So it may not be convenient, nor may it be realistic to sit there and say, well, I can drop all opinions today and never have another opinion. But maybe what you can do is you can start to understand that your opinion is just that. It's an opinion. And then be willing to let go of that opinion, to see what it's like to not have an opinion about things. Miraculous things will begin to happen. Stop seeing life as something that happens to you. We all run around thinking that life is happening to us, that we're being bombarded by all these events in our lives. Life is actually expressing itself through us, individually and collectively. And we, as conscious creators, or moving towards conscious creation, have the ability to direct how life expresses itself through us. And we're doing it all the time anyways, consciously or unconsciously. So the second key, if you will, to happiness is to understand that life is actually happening through you, and everything that comes to you is to show you something, is to give you an opportunity to grow, to experience, to evolve. And when you can begin to see life more and more from this point of view, happiness starts to happen all by itself, because you're no longer seeing big walls drop down in front of you. You're no longer seeing long impassable moats that you have to get across. Hello, Susan. Nice to see you today, too. Great to have you all here today. When we come to the understanding that life has literally happened through us, and again, this is one of the reasons why I think that objectively pulling open the filing cabinet of your past and taking a brief overview, not to get entrenched in it, but a brief overview of how everything literally did happen through you in your life, and see how you've evolved through it. See how you've navigated, no matter what you may have thought about it. See how you have come out. Always come out. Sometimes a little bruised and battered and tattered and torn. That's true. But that's living. That's learn to relish even those things that right now in the state of consciousness you're in, you would perceive as not good. Or why is this happening to me? Learn to relish even those feelings. That's what we're here to experience. That which you are cannot be harmed. And you don't have to believe the voice in your head all the time. And I guarantee you there will come a day when we all stand together on the other side and we gather around and we have a big laugh about it. A big laugh how each of us played our parts so well that we bought into them totally, and so did everyone else. Stop seeing life as something that happens to you and understand it's happening, always happening, through you. Choose the happenings. And you choose the happenings by starting to remind yourself of what you truly are, to remember yourself, to make yourself whole again, and to reunite yourself, to bring yourself in balance with the truth of the oneness of your being, the beautiful oneness of your being. Realize that nothing outside of yourself brings true happiness. And, the older you get, the more this becomes apparent, I think, for most. Although I still see, I just had my 37-year-old neighbor who has 3 little girls go out and buy a motorcycle. And I always wince at that because what I see is a 15-year-old boy still who hasn't got over wanting a fast crotch rocket to ride on, with 3 tiny little children and a wife at home. It just makes me tingle. I don't. But I shouldn't say I don't understand, because I do. It's ego, okay? The motorcycle represents something. And as I always said, it's not the objects we're looking for, it's the feeling. We're always looking for that feeling, and we're always searching outside of ourselves for it. We think that car is going to give us a feeling. But it doesn't. And if it does, it's not deep, it's not real, and it doesn't last. And then we're forced to go out to search for something else. Sometimes it's people. We'll go out picking up the same people over and over and over again, looking for a feeling, never understanding the unconscious rune inside of us that we have yet to remember and reunite and remind within ourselves, so that we stop walking down that same street and dropping in that same hole. And I do that too. I'll walk down that same street, I will see that hole, and I will watch as I walk right head first into it. And then I will lay there at the bottom of the hole, and I will stare up at the sky, and I will say, why am I here? And then a little voice will come through saying, you're here because you put yourself here, you dummy. Get up and get out. Quit walking down the street. Learn to take you and your life lightly. Trust me, I've been here for 3,284 years worth of various existences. You got lots of room to mess it up. And in truth, you can't. It's not a big deal. We're so used to thinking of our lives like this, when in fact your life is like this in both those directions, going that way forever. I'm not saying don't have objects, but understand that those objects will not bring you the feelings you're looking for. Those feelings must come within yourself. And what we're looking for is actually emotional states. And those true emotions come from spirit. They come from alignment with spirit. Love, compassion, joy. You have an immensely joyful being at your core. And when you get in touch with that immensely joyful being, you cannot help but be happy. You don't have to look for that being. That being is you. It's waiting there for you. It's just saying, can you shut up long enough for me to, be heard? And we can do that through meditation. We can do that through yoga. We can do that through art, through rock climbing. Whatever it is that brings you peace and stillness inside. Return to that, and you'll find your happiness growing. Surrender. Always surrender. What does surrender mean? We have this movie-based, westernized idea of surrender. I think it has started back in the days of the cowboy movies, okay? Every time someone says surrender, you think of someone putting their hands up and saying, I surrender. Arrest me. Put me in jail. Whatever. I'm done. And then the handcuffs come on. And I think in our unconscious back of our minds, in our subconsciousness, we somehow think that surrendering is tied up with this idea of being handcuffed and imprisoned, when in fact, to surrender is to become free. Rumi said we spend all day wandering around our prison looking for an exit, never realizing that the key to the door is hanging around our own neck. Surrendering lets you out of your own prison. Surrendering means not having an opinion. Or, at worst, having an opinion that says, I'm going to wait and see. I'm not going to judge. I'm going to wait and see. And that's another word I should have had on here as well, and that is judgment. But really that falls under opinion as well, okay? Hello, Kim. How are you today? Yeah, always surrender your problems. Kim says she surrenders her problems to the universe. Absolutely. Surrender the problems to whatever vision of your highest self works for you. As I said in the video, To Whom Do We Pray? Right? A lot of times we get lost in who we pray to when we wake up out of religion, because it's all of a sudden like, would God even listen anymore? Because I've kind of abandoned the concept of Him. Whether it's the universe or Krishna or Jesus or a saint, surrender it without expectation. My wife reminded me how guilty she was of this during the years and right up to leading when she met me. She had put out there to the universe that, she had surrendered, but she had expectations. Her expectation was, her heart was she wanted a loyal husband who she could communicate with about anything, who she could grow with, who loved her and cared for her. She didn't know that it wasn't the person she was with. She had expectations that it was. It didn't really work out that way. Surrendering means give it all up. Understand that you're already in the arms of the divine. You are the divine. You cannot be harmed. Your existence here is meant to be one of play. It only ceases to be play when we push up against it so hard. You know, play for me has meant sometimes living on the street, homeless. Play for me has also included walking thousands of kilometers for a cause. The interesting thing about the physical and mental suffering that we think we go through a lot of the times is that as soon as it's done, we can't even conceptualize what it felt like anymore. And that's because most of it is perceptual. It is our perceptions, the way we feel about what we think, that causes all the grief. Surrender to life, and then life begins to flow through you naturally. You no longer are sort of queering the deal for yourself. And don't worry when you do. That's part of the process too. Really, we're all little play school kids stumbling around on the trail, you know. Highly powerful spiritual beings that we are, we're all having a really good laugh at the goofiness of human existence. Let a little of that cosmic humor invade your life. See what happens when you cease to have an opinion about something that happens, like our basement flooding. I don't have an opinion on it. I really don't. Neither does Kelly. It just is. Oh well. What a difference in the amount of energy and time and suffering that we don't go through because we just don't give a rat's ass. The last point of how to be happy is, of course, the present moment, because in this present moment, there can be nothing wrong. I want you just to try it with me right now. Just close your eyes for one brief second and take a deep conscious breath and relax. Nothing's wrong. It's only when the ego starts in that things begin to perceived as being wrong. It's only when that thought process starts. What you truly are lives in that quiet space of absolute knowing that there is nothing to worry about. No matter what trial, no matter what tribulation, no matter how much your ego may feel pushed down. Thank you, Susan. I like making people laugh. It's a lot of fun. You know, allow yourself to feel pushed down. Allow the ego to be diminished. This does not mean putting yourself in harm's way by any means, okay? But surrender to the present moment. Love it. Live it. I hope this has been helpful. It's been a surprise live event, but I wanted to pull this off before our friends stop by for a visit. Much love. Namaste to you all. And I hope you enjoy the other post today, and we will talk again soon. Take care.